Hi there, and welcome back to Leanne Reads, the channel where we share powerful insights and personal growth lessons through great books. Imagine a world where the fate of the universe lies in the hands of one family, a desert planet that holds the most valuable resource in existence, and a young man destined to become a messiah. Welcome to Dune, Frank Herbert's epic masterpiece that blends politics, power, and survival in a universe full of intrigue and danger. In today's video, we'll explore the unforgettable world of Arrakis, uncover the deep themes that make Dune a timeless sci-fi classic, and dive into the journey of Paul Atreides, who's more than just a leader. He's the key to humanity's future. If you enjoy what you hear and want to dive deeper, we've included a link to the book in the description below. Now, let's get started. First published in 1965, Dune is not just a science fiction novel but a monumental epic, a grand saga about fate, ambition, and the struggle for survival in the vast universe. Set thousands of years in the future, Dune takes the reader to Arrakis, a harsh desert planet that holds the destiny of all humanity. The story revolves around Paul Atreides, the son of Duke Leto, who has just arrived on Arrakis to take control of the planet. Arrakis, with its precious spices substance that enhances mental power and controls the fate of the universe, becomes the center of political schemes, bloody wars, and humanity's insatiable greed. Caught in the whirlpool of destiny, Paul is forced to mature, learn how to adapt to the harsh environment, master the latent power within himself, and lead the Fremen, the mysterious native inhabitants of Arrakis, in a battle against the dark forces trying to seize the spice and dominate the universe. Frank Herbert, 1920–1986, the creator of Dune, is one of the most outstanding authors in the genre of science fiction and fantasy. Before becoming a writer, he served in the U.S. Navy during World War II and worked as a journalist and editor for major newspapers. Dune is Frank Herbert's most famous work, having sold over 12 million copies worldwide and been adapted into several successful films and television series. The immense success of Dune has made Frank Herbert a legend in world literature and continues to inspire generations of readers today. He also wrote many other famous novels, particularly sequels, in the Dune series. Though it was first published over half a century ago, Dune by Frank Herbert remains a hot topic in literary and cinematic discussions today. The novel's appeal partly stems from the recent attempt by director Denis Villeneuve in 2021 to adapt the impossible novel into film. Before Villeneuve, many prominent filmmakers had attempted and failed miserably with Dune. Despite having an A-list cast and impressive box office earnings, the latest adaptations still failed to satisfy a significant portion of the original novel's fans. So, what makes Dune so special? The answer likely lies in the timeless value of the work itself. Published for the first time in 1965, Dune created a major breakthrough for science fiction literature, surpassing the simpler frameworks of contemporaneous works. The novel captivates readers with a meticulously crafted, detailed, and convincing fictional world. Moreover, Dune's complex plot is a multi-dimensional epic, deeply exploring political, ecological, and religious themes. Its warnings about the dangers of power ambition, the double-edged sword of scientific progress, and the perils of environmental exploitation are still relevant today. Dune, like many other great works of science fiction, takes us to a distant planet in a far-off future. Humanity has conquered space, expanded across the stars, and established a vast galactic empire. At the helm of this empire is the Emperor, holding ultimate power and ruling over countless noble houses. Each house governs its own planet, possessing unique skills and characteristics. And of course, ambition and fierce competition for power are ever present. The story begins with a historic power transfer. The Emperor commands House Harkonnen to hand over control of the desert planet Arrakis to House Atreides, led by the wise and dignified Duke Leto. This order forces Duke Leto and his family to leave Caladan, their prosperous home planet, and take charge of the harsh Arrakis. However, the Atreides family knows this will not be a smooth transition, not only because of the long-standing feud between the two houses, but also because Arrakis is a planet rich with potential. It is the only source of Malang, also known as spice, a rare substance that enhances intelligence and prolongs life. Whoever controls Arrakis holds vast wealth, and certainly, House Harkonnen will not easily relinquish this profitable treasure. In addition to the dangers from House Harkonnen, House Atreides must face numerous challenges on Arrakis: the harsh desert climate, giant, ferocious sandworms, and, most importantly, the Fremen, the mysterious and hostile native people. We experience all of this through the eyes of Paul, Duke Leto's son, who will soon become the central figure of the story. As the family prepares for the monumental journey, 15-year-old Paul Atreides tries to gather information and prepare for the challenges ahead. Paul's mother, Lady Jessica, and her mother, Reverend Mother, also called the Mother, are powerful witches of the Bene Gesserit lineage. They reveal troubling future visions to Paul. They foresee the death of Duke Leto in the battle for Arrakis, but they also believe that Paul is the Kwisatz Haderach, the Messiah, who will change the destiny of the entire universe. As the son of a Bene Gesserit, which Paul is capable of inheriting extraordinary mental powers, but he must also face the risk of madness or even death. Due to the overwhelming nature of these abilities, these ominous visions weigh heavily on Paul's mind. However, the Atreides family around Paul remains full of hope and determination to fight on. Thufir Hawat, the master strategist of Duke Leto, constantly reassures Paul, helping him overcome his fears about the future visions the Bene Gesserit have warned him about. As a men taught humans with superior intellect and absolute logical reasoning, Thufir places his trust in reason and his own judgment. Meanwhile, Gurney Halleck, a fierce mercenary leader and Paul's combat instructor, stays by his side, training him for the fierce battles ahead. Meanwhile, in a hidden corner of the universe, House Harkonnen's sinister schemes are gradually being revealed. Baron Harkonnen conspires with the Emperor, both aiming to destroy Duke Leto and House Atreides. They secretly hoard the spice and plan to destroy spice mines on Arrakis to monopolize this valuable resource. Duke Leto senses the treacherous plot, but believes he can stay one step ahead. What Duke Leto doesn't foresee, however, is the betrayal within his own house. Dr. Yue, the trusted physician of House Atreides, has been bribed by the Harkonnens. They kidnap Yu's wife and force him to betray the Duke in exchange for her life. Frank Herbert skillfully leads readers into the vast and complex universe of Dune from the very first chapters. He introduces a range of characters, places, tools, historical legends, and religious beliefs, each element contributing to the larger picture of this captivating fictional world. Many details are slowly revealed as the story progresses, creating curiosity and a drive to explore further. At the heart of the Dune universe is Arrakis, a harsh desert planet with scarce water. Home to the giant sandworms and the mysterious Fremen, Arrakis is also the only source of spice, a valuable resource that is fiercely sought after, becoming the key to the Emperor and House Harkonnen's dark plot against House Atreides. Paul Atreides, our main character, is an intelligent and occasionally stubborn teenager, possessing the potential to be a warrior, a leader, and a prophet. He embodies the core values of House Atreides: loyalty, virtue, and mental discipline. The mysterious prophecies from the Bene Gesserit hint at the great destiny awaiting Paul, suggesting that he may be the savior of the universe. Moreover, the opening chapters also subtly weave in the overarching themes of the novel, which will be explored further in later parts. These include the harsh yet mesmerizing ecosystem of Arrakis, the diverse and complex religious beliefs of the tribes and factions, and the dark political intrigues of the forces within the Empire. All these elements create a multifaceted, compelling picture of the Dune world. The arrival of House Atreides on the planet Arrakis initially goes more smoothly than expected. The Harkonnens, the previous rulers, left behind outdated and poor quality infrastructure, while the native Fremen still remain wary of anyone in power at the palace. The early stage of the power transition takes place relatively peacefully. However, darkness quickly descends. Shortly after arriving on Arrakis, Paul narrowly escapes death from a hunter-seeker, a tiny, deadly machine left behind by the Harkonnens in his bedroom. This shocking incident forces Duke Leto, Paul's father, to expedite his plans to solidify power. He, along with Duncan Idaho, a skilled swordsman, begins seeking an alliance with Stilgar, the highly respected leader of the Fremen. Together, they prepare for a large-scale attack from the Harkonnens, something they are sure will happen. Meanwhile, Paul and his father meet Dr. Kynes, the leading ecologist of Arrakis. Kynes takes them to visit a spice mine, where the Atreides men are appalled by the intense heat and the harsh working conditions of the laborers. The passionate scientist shares that Arrakis has the potential to become a lush paradise, if it were not for the greed of the spice traders. He also reveals his bold plan to make that a reality. While still cautious of the new rulers, Kynes feels hope as he witnesses their openness to his ideas. His admiration for Duke Leto grows even more when the Duke bravely saves the workers and abandons valuable spice during a giant sandworm attack. Back at the palace, Duke Leto organizes a lavish banquet to win the favor of the Arrakeen elite. But the fragile atmosphere of peace doesn't last long. On the fateful night, after discovering the body of a Fremen servant and a spice smuggler in the palace, Duke Leto suddenly feels his arm go numb. Dr. Yuet, his trusted physician, appears from the shadows and shoots a poisoned dart, paralyzing Duke Leto completely. It turns out Yue has betrayed House Atreides. In hopes of bargaining with the Harkonnens to save his wife, Yue had turned off the palace's energy shield, leaving it completely open for the Harkonnens to attack. Chaos then ensues. The Harkonnen forces flood into the palace, launching a surprise attack on the unprepared Atreides army. Yue, now a puppet in the hands of the enemy, is forced to take Duke Leto to meet the cruel Baron Harkonnen. However, despite his deep hatred for the Harkonnens and his guilt over his betrayal, Yue secretly implants a poisoned tooth into Duke Leto's mouth. He explains that if Duke Leto bites the tooth, the poison will be released, killing anyone nearby, including himself. This provides a quick death for the Duke, and it serves as a cruel act of revenge against the Harkonnen invaders. As expected, when the Duke is brought before the gleeful Baron Harkonnen, he uses his last bit of strength to bite down on the poisoned tooth. The deadly toxin spreads throughout the room, killing dozens of Harkonnen soldiers, but the cunning Baron Harkonnen narrowly escapes death. Meanwhile, Paul and his mother are kidnapped by the Harkonnen soldiers and taken deep into the desert with the intent to eliminate them. Barely escaping the jaws of death, the two must face the harsh struggle for survival in the vast desert. Just when hope seems lost, Duncan Idaho, who had been secretly informed by Yue, in a final act of redemption, finds Paul and his mother. With his survival skills, Duncan helps them adapt to the harsh desert environment, opening a new chapter of challenges and trials in their lives. As the story progresses, we gradually uncover more about Arrakis, the harsh desert planet, and the Fremen, its native people. One of the key themes in the early part of the novel is the complex relationship between humans and the environment. Thanks to the ecologist Dr. Kynes, the Atreides family begins to understand the harsh climate of Arrakis and witness firsthand the dangers of spice extraction. They realize that, on this barren planet, water is more valuable than gold or jewels. In fact, in order to survive in the vast desert, the Fremen must wear special suits that recycle their body fluids. However, Kynes believes that Arrakis is not always a dead land. According to him, the planet has the potential to become a lush oasis. Unfortunately, spice traders are blindly chasing profits, exploiting the resources without regard for the consequences. The spice extraction activities not only endanger the lives of the miners, but also harm the fragile ecosystem of Arrakis. Interestingly, the native Fremen have a much deeper and stronger connection to the environment than anyone else. They have adapted and found ways to survive in the harsh desert. Their resourcefulness, skill, and deep understanding of Arrakis will become the Fremen's greatest weapon in the upcoming struggle. The journey of escaping the Harkonnen pursuit has transformed Paul into a different person. He begins to exhibit extraordinary mental abilities that surpass human imagination. The spice, the precious resource of Arrakis, slowly permeates every cell of Paul's body, awakening a latent power within him. The prophetic visions that Paul sees become increasingly clearer, even surpassing what his mother, Lady Jessica, had anticipated. Witnessing her son's growing power, Lady Jessica firmly believes that Paul is the Kwisatz Haderach, the prophesied Messiah, who will change the fate of the universe. But Paul does not fully embrace this great destiny. In his visions, he sees a bloody jihad, where the armies of Atreides and the Fremen must face a mighty enemy. Although the alliance between the Atreides and the Fremen becomes stronger in their fight against the Harkonnens, the vision of a large-scale war leaves Paul troubled. In a moment of danger, Paul and Jessica are rescued by Duncan Idaho, the Swordmaster, and Dr. Kynes, the planet's leading ecologist. They take the mother and son to the biosphere, a secret ecological research facility, where Kynes harbors a dream of restoring Earth's ecosystem to the desert planet. Here, a startling secret is revealed. Kynes is Liat, the spiritual leader of the Fremen. Initially, Kynes is skeptical of the true intentions of House Atreides. However, Through Paul's intelligence and foresight, he convinces Kynes to cooperate. Paul even declares he will reveal his plans to the other great houses, forcing the emperor to intervene and return the throne of Arrakis to House Atreides. In return, Paul promises to support Kynes' ambitious plan to terraform Arrakis. But before the plan can be put into action, disaster strikes. The Harkonnens launch a surprise attack on the biosphere. Duncan Idaho bravely fights and sacrifices himself to protect Paul and Jessica. Kynes is captured and brutally killed. Once again, Paul and his mother must flee into the vast desert, facing violent sandstorms, gigantic sandworms and deadly dunes. Amidst the vast desert, fate brings them to Stilgar, the leader of a powerful Fremen tribe. The Fremen, with their extraordinary adaptability, have conquered the harsh desert and turned it into their advantage. They are not only fierce warriors, skilled in riding giant sandworms for travel and combat, but also astute political strategists. By controlling the spice, this valuable resource that they possess, the Fremen secretly manipulate the Spacing Guild, a powerful organization that controls interstellar travel and the banking system, indirectly influencing both the Emperor and House Harkonnen. At Siegetober, a fortified stronghold hidden deep within the desert, Paul must prove his worth before the seasoned Fremen warriors. He fights and wins in a deadly knife duel with Jamis, a skilled Fremen warrior. As a mark of respect, Stilgar gives Paul the secret name Uzul, meaning the base, a symbol of strength and stability. Paul also takes the name Muad'Dib, a powerful Fremen name. The overwhelming victory and undeniable charm helped Paul win the heart of Chani, Kynes' daughter, who later becomes his love and soulmate. Religion is a pervasive theme and plays a key role in shaping the Dune universe. Every house, tribe, or organization in the novel carries its own belief system, which interweaves and clashes with others, creating a diverse and conflicted tapestry of faith. Among the many prophecies circulating, the most prominent is the one about the Messiah Savior, who will appear to change the order of the universe. This prophecy runs as a thread throughout the story, evoking both hope and fear in the hearts of each character. As the novel progresses into its second part, Paul Atreides gradually reveals his extraordinary abilities, fulfilling the prophecy of the Messiah. The Fremen, with their strong faith, begin to worship Paul as the Mahdi, the one who will lead them all to paradise. Paul himself starts to feel the superhuman power growing within him, a perfect blend of the sharp intuition of the Bene Gesserit traditionally associated with women and the razor-sharp logic of a Mentata, symbol of the superior intellect of men. Frank Herbert cleverly weaves religious elements into every corner of the story. He uses subtly prophetic biblical excerpts, creating a sacred and mystical atmosphere. Herbert's narrative voice also carries a spiritual quality, as though he is guiding the reader directly into the complex inner worlds of each character. While Paul is the central figure, Herbert does not limit the reader's perspective to just him. Instead, he uses a multifaceted narrative, allowing readers to penetrate the thoughts and emotions of many different characters, as though Herbert himself possesses the mental prowess of a mentat to read minds. 2 years have passed since the last major events, and Dune opens a new chapter full of dramatic changes. Paul Atreides, no longer the inexperienced boy he once was, has now become the political and spiritual leader of the Fremen. Surrounded by the Fedaykin, the elite bodyguards, Paul grows increasingly adept at controlling the sandworms, the symbol of desert power. His prestige among the Fremen is so great that some of the younger ones even wish for Paul to challenge Stilgar, the seasoned leader, for the leadership position. However, Paul's loyalty to Stilgar prevents him from doing so. Ultimately, they reach an agreement. Paul becomes the new Duke of Atreides, while Stilgar remains the spiritual leader of the Fremen. Paul's family also faces significant changes. He and Chani, the strong desert girl, have a son, named Leto II, in honor of Paul's late father. Jessica, Paul's mother, is now revered as the mother by the Fremen, and gives birth to a daughter. Aliyah, Paul's sister, though only 2 years old, already possesses superior intellect and unusual sensitivity, a result of the spice ritual Jessica underwent while pregnant with her. Aliyah's rapid development causes her to grow distant from children her age, leaving her alone in her own world. As the new Duke of Atreides, Paul leads the Fremen in their battle to reclaim Arrakis. Their adversaries are the Emperor, Baron Harkonnen, and their mighty armies. The final battle for Arrakis is drawing near. Paul and the Fremen warriors devise a bold plan. using the ferocious sandstorms to their advantage. They will deploy atomic weapons to destroy the enemy's protective shield walls. However, as the battle reaches its climax, bad news strikes. Siegetober, the Fremen's sanctuary, has been attacked. Chani and Jessica narrowly escape, but Leto too, Paul's son, is killed. Alia is captured, but Alia is no ordinary hostage. She silently assassinates Baron Harkonnen with a poisoned needle, killing him in his moment of complacency. At the same time, Paul leads the Fremen forces, riding giant sandworms into direct combat with the Emperor's and Harkonnen's armies. Their superior combat skills, along with the mighty sandworms, help the Fremen crush the enemy. Paul's victory is resounding, and he becomes the new ruler of Arrakis. To solidify his power and prevent unnecessary future conflicts, Paul forces the Emperor to surrender by threatening to destroy the entire spice supply on Arrakis. He also demands to marry Princess Irulan, the Emperor's daughter, as a way to legitimize his rule. Paul reassures Chani that she need not worry about this political marriage, for in his heart, Chani is his true wife. As Dune concludes, Paul accepts the fate that has been laid before him. He is the Kwisatz Haderach, the prophesied Messiah. However, Paul understands that the true jihad has not yet come, and he will play a pivotal role in that destined war. Dune brings the reader back into the intricate, calculated political web of the Empire. The plot to overthrow House Atreides has been nurtured for years by the Emperor and Baron Harkonnen. They've planted spies, bribed traitors, and set up a deadly network to eliminate Duke Leto and seize control of Arrakis. However, the Emperor and the Baron's arrogance and greed have clouded their judgment. They underestimated the latent power of the Fremen and Paul Atreides' leadership capabilities. Moreover, both the Emperor and the Baron rely on the Spacing Guild, a powerful organization that holds a monopoly over spice trade, while the guild itself is dependent on the spice supply from Arrakis. Paul and the Fremen recognize this fatal flaw and cleverly exploit it to their advantage. Paul's victory comes not only from his military strategy, but also from the spiritual strength of the Fremen. Unlike the Emperor's and Baron's armies, driven by greed and power, the Fremen fight for a higher purpose, to protect their homeland, honor their environment, and remain loyal to their spiritual leader. It is this profound spiritual unity, discipline, and unmatched courage that allows the Fremen to overcome the odds, defeat the powerful enemy, and claim freedom for Arrakis. In a distant future, when humanity has reached the stars, the universe is ruled by an all-powerful emperor and divided into the territories of powerful noble houses. Amidst endless power struggles, the desert planet Arrakis emerges as a coveted treasure. Arrakis is the only source of spice, a rare substance that enhances mental powers and controls the fate of the entire universe. The story begins when the Emperor grants Duke Leto Atreides the control of Arrakis, a decision that seems like a favor but hides a deep and malicious conspiracy. The Emperor, in collusion with the cruel Baron Harkonnen, has planned the destruction of House Atreides and the monopolization of the priceless spice. Amid the brutal conflict on Arrakis, Paul, the son of Duke Leto, is caught in the whirlpool of destiny. Not only must he adapt to the harsh environment of the desert planet, but he must also face political treachery and ruthless enemies. In his quest for survival and justice for his family, Paul turns to the Fremen, the mysterious native people of Arrakis. They are fierce warriors, well-versed in desert survival, and possess extraordinary mental powers. Under the guidance of the Fremen, Paul trains himself to become a formidable warrior, a talented leader, and gradually uncovers his great destiny to become the Messiah, who will liberate Arrakis from brutal domination and lead the Fremen to freedom. Dune is a monumental science fiction masterpiece that explores complex themes of politics, ecology, religion, and destiny, all set in a vast, desert planet known as Arrakis. At the core of the novel is Paul Atreides, the heir of House Atreides, who is thrust into a world of power struggles and deadly political intrigue. When his family is assigned to rule over the desert planet, Arrakis is the only known source of melling, or spice, a substance so valuable it controls interstellar travel and grants mental abilities. The novel intricately weaves Paul's personal journey with larger societal and ecological struggles, reflecting on the intersections between destiny, power, and the environment. Herbert's world-building is exceptional, portraying a universe rich in history and depth. The planet Arrakis itself is not just a setting but a character. Its harsh desert landscape and native inhabitants, The Fremen play crucial roles in the unfolding drama. The Fremen's relationship with the planet, shaped by their deep respect for its ecosystem and survival instincts, contrasts sharply with the destructive exploitation of the planet by imperial forces. The exploration of politics in Dune is also particularly engaging. Herbert skillfully depicts the power struggles between noble houses, their complex relationships with the Emperor, and the manipulations of various factions such as the Bene Gesserit, a religious order with hidden agendas. Through Paul, we see the dangers of power, the weight of prophecy, and the moral and personal costs of leadership. Dune also delves into the impact of ecological and environmental factors on society. Herbert questions the consequences of environmental exploitation, warning against the dangers of blind progress and the manipulation of natural resources for power. The way the Fremen view Arrakis more as a sacred land than just a resource provides a poignant commentary on humanity's relationship with nature. Overall, Dune is a deeply philosophical novel that transcends its science fiction genre, offering profound insights into human nature, power, and survival. It's a narrative that challenges the reader to reflect on the consequences of ecological degradation, the ethics of leadership, and the destructive allure of power. Thank you for listening to the condensed version of Dune, The Desert Planet, by Frank Herbert. This summary was produced Lean Reads to support the author and learn more about the book. You can purchase the physical book by clicking the link in description. We hope you enjoy your reading experience.